Nobody realizes what the Pittsburgh Steelers just did in free agency. They think that they didn't make any moves, but in reality, they're stacking up on draft picks to make a big move. But first, before I get more into it, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also like this video. Now, let's get right back into it. So far in free agency, the Pittsburgh Steelers have made minimal moves in terms of signing outside big name free agents. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are being smart about this. They realize that this offseason is not the offseason to do it. Next offseason is where they can go out and make some big time moves and use their draft picks to trade up. I'm going to tell you why. Because the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason had many players leave in free agency who actually signed big contracts. For example, Dan Moore Jr. left the Steelers, signed with the Tennessee Titans, and he received the Pittsburgh Steelers a third-round draft pick based off what he signed with the Titans. So in return, the Steelers will receive a third-round comp draft pick in next year's NFL draft. And to put this into perspective, if the Pittsburgh Steelers go out and sign a big-name player in free agency, whoever it may be, to match the same amount of contract that Dan Moore Jr. signed, the Steelers wouldn't receive that third-round draft comp pick. So the Pittsburgh Steelers are being smart about this. They're signing outside free agents to the team that don't affect the comp draft pick formula. For example, Darius, even though he signed a $10 million deal with the Steelers, because he was released by his team and then the Steelers signed him, that doesn't go into the formula and that doesn't affect the draft picks that the Steelers will receive. So the Steelers are making moves based off of that. And another example is DK Metcalf. The Steelers traded for him first and then assigned him to a huge deal, which once again doesn't affect the formula. So nobody realizes what the Steelers are doing. They're stacking up on these draft picks based off their own players leaving in free agency, and next year when the NFL draft is in Pittsburgh, they could use those draft picks to move up in the draft or make a big move by trading them, and they'll still have many more draft picks in their stash to make more moves. But they're going to save those draft picks and use them in a trade. And nobody realizes that. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, they receive a third-round draft pick or will receive a third-round draft pick next year's NFL draft because Dan Moore Jr. But when you look at Justin Fields, based on his playing time and his incentives in his contract, he can receive the Pittsburgh Steelers another third-round draft pick. Based off where it stands right now, more than likely it will be a fourth round, but it could also be another third round. Once again, if they signed a player that was worth the same amount of contract as Justin Fields signed with the Jets, they would not receive that draft pick. So they hold off on that signing. And they also let Russell Wilson leave in free agency as well, the Pittsburgh Steelers did. He signed with the Giants. If the Pittsburgh Steelers signed Russell Wilson, they wouldn't receive any comp pick for him because they would re-sign to a contract. So what did they do? They let him leave in free agency, and he will receive the Pittsburgh Steelers at least a fifth-round draft pick based off his signing. And based off his incentives in his contract, it can go all the way up to a third-round draft pick. So once again, the Pittsburgh Steelers can receive three third-round draft picks based off their players leaving. Will it be all three third-rounders? No, it could be a third, a fourth, and a fifth based off the incentives, but the Pittsburgh Steelers are stashing up on those draft picks. And in return for Donte Jackson, the Steelers will also receive a sixth-round draft pick. So the most you could receive is 4 comp picks in one NFL draft, and the Steelers more than likely will have at least a third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, and it could be even higher. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, when you look at the players they let leave in free agency, why would you sign Justin Fields, Russell Wilson to a contract, a 1-year contract? Does it make sense? No. You could go out and sign Aaron Rodgers to a 1-year contract. If you don't plan on signing the guys you had on your team for a long-term contract extension and you think they're going to be the future franchise quarterback, then why would you sign them to a 1-year deal when you could go out and sign Aaron Rodgers, who's also going to be on a 1-year contract, who won't affect the comp draft pick formula? Why wouldn't you just go out and sign him instead? So that's what the Steelers are doing. Aaron Rodgers got cut from his team, which was the Jets, and he and the Steelers are talking about a contract on a 1-year deal, and the Pittsburgh Steelers could bring in a veteran and still have a quarterback for 1 year, that they will still receive draft picks for the other guys leaving. So it makes sense what the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing from a deep perspective of it in terms of the comp draft pick formula and them trying to make a move for next year for a quarterback. And I bring this up because the NFL draft is in Pittsburgh next season. What does that mean? Well, it hasn't been in Pittsburgh for a very long time. That means the Steelers are hosting it. And what does that usually mean in terms of the draft and in terms of the bigger picture? Well, you want to make a big move if it's in Pittsburgh. You want to set the tone for the NFL draft in your spots. And that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers may be doing here from an outside point of view looking in. They may be stashing up on these draft picks because we all know when you trade for a player, it takes draft picks to land that player. Or when you trade up in the draft, it takes draft picks to trade up in the draft. And I'm telling you, if the Pittsburgh Steelers are willing to trade up for a quarterback in next year's NFL draft and move up to the number 1 spot or number 3 spot or wherever it may take to land a quarterback, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to have to give up multiple draft picks in future drafts. And the Steelers will feel more comfortable giving up a 2nd and a 3rd round draft pick along with their 1st round draft pick in next year's draft if they have 3 third round draft picks in a stash or 1 extra 3rd round and extra 4th round in the stash. They're going to feel way more comfortable moving up in the draft if you have all these other draft picks out there. And if you really want to get into it, the Steelers could give up multiple draft picks in terms of 1st round, 2nd round, all their 3rd rounds. The Pittsburgh Steelers can make a move next offseason based off what they're doing this offseason, and nobody quite realizes that. So you may think the Pittsburgh Steelers have so much money left in free agency. They have over $40 million. You may think that. Well, the Pittsburgh Steelers are playing it smart and signing all these players on shorter contracts in terms of money around the $4 million, $5 million range, so it doesn't affect their draft pick formula. For example, they went out and got Malik Harrison, and it affected the Najee Harris draft formula in terms of what he would have received the Pittsburgh Steelers in a 5th round draft pick, but they need an inside linebacker. So they're signing these guys on shorter term deals in terms of less money to bring them onto the roster. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though they're making minimal moves in free agency in terms of signing big names, they're doing it in a way that helps them in future years. So they're being smart about this, and this is what they're doing. And nobody outside quite realizes it, but as a Steelers fan, you have to realize that this is what they're doing. They realize, hey, if we can't win a Super Bowl, or we don't believe our team's capable of winning a Super Bowl next season, then why are we going to go out and sign all these major guys just to lose or just to barely make the playoffs? It doesn't make sense. We're still going to make the playoffs either way. Doesn't matter who's on our team, because that's what the Steelers do. So we're still going to make the playoffs. But if we go and sign all these big name players, are we really going to make the Super Bowl? Probably not. So let's do what we have to do. Let us take 1 extra year. Let's slow down a little bit. Let's look at the process. And let's be better next year. And that's what the Steelers are doing. They're slowing it down and looking at the process in totality. And the Pittsburgh Steelers realize that next year is a year they could go out and try to win a Super Bowl and get their quarterback of the future. Anyway, it's going to be quite interesting if they don't end up doing this, but in reality, this is what I think they're doing. This is what it looks like they're doing from an outside point of view looking in. But anyway, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on this situation, on this topic of the Pittsburgh Steelers trying to make a big move at quarterback and basically stacking up on draft picks and getting these comp picks for their next year NFL draft, which is in Pittsburgh. Do you like the idea of this? Do you think this is what they're actually doing? Or do you think it's just outside point of view looking in and this is not what they're doing at all and they really don't care about this and that's just what's happening? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And also, who do you think will be the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers next season? Do you think Aaron Rodgers retires? Do you think he signs with the Steelers? Do you think it's Mason Rudolph? Do you think they draft one in this year's draft and then go back next year and draft another one? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And also, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news, updates, highlights, analysis reports. Everything surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers, I've covered it this offseason in terms of all the free agency signings, all the trades, every new player that Steelers signed. Their introduction is on the channel, and highlights and analysis will be coming soon for most of them. So stay tuned to this channel, and also all the news and rumors will be covered as well. So stick to this channel with notifications on and subscribe. The draft is around the corner. So until the next video, I'll see you guys all later. I'm out. Peace.